Welcome to the High Ground Podcast. I'm Stevie W.
And I'm Callum.
And today we're going to be looking at the decline of the 18 certificate.
Sad times.
It is. I remember when I was growing up, the 18 certificate was like a badge of honour for movies.
Yeah, so even when I was growing up, early 90s, there was still quite a lot of them around in the cinemas that I used to think, I wish I was 18.
Yeah, and it was the posters that was the selling point for it. I mean, the posters looked good, and it would have that big, honest-looking red 18 certificate in the corner.
Yeah, I mean, because 15 was kind of like the no man's land between like PG-12 and 18, wasn't it? Like you just sort of thought, 15, it must be like not violent enough to be an 18, so I'm not interested.
Yeah, it's. Especially when it came to like the horror genre, 18 was the badge of honor. It was.
Yeah.
Then
it was like a weird sort of fraternity, wasn't it? Where like your Scouts badge was the 18 films. Sorry, Stevie has a mouthful right now. It's just he's just trying to swallow it.
That was a big mistake of mine. So at least we're doing it in one take and we're live. So yeah, and it's like when I look over and things that you'd imagine as being 18 certificates, and then you look at them now on Blu-ray, DVD, streaming, whatever service you get it from, they've gone down to 15.
Yeah, I hate that they downgrade films.
So do I.
I found out a few years ago that I went to see Predator on its like anniversary with one of my friends, and that's a 15 now. And in the cinema it had the 15 certificate, and I thought, surely not Predator. Like, how? But I don't know. I think we can just take a lot more now, can't we? Like, what's now a 15 would have been an 18 in the 80s, or I don't know. It's all to do with context, I suppose, isn't it? Like, you can't say what you find disturbing will be disturbing to someone else, can you? So
especially
maybe it's I suppose it's to do with that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like in 15, 20 years. It's the visual effects. I mean, now when these, if you look at the early ones, when the rubbery monster would come out the sea, or the zombies walking, and it was scary because it was like great visuals for the time. But now it's like, it's just a guy in a suit, or it's just makeup. But
or CG.
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff that's in Predator now, which we thought was ultra realistic at the time, is now it's all fake, or the Alien.
Yeah.
But when you go and see something, the one that got me was The Meg, which I was hoping for. Come on, it's gonna be a great, Jaws style, gruesome, and then you could go, it's done for children, so that you can get kids in to watch it.
Not a drop of blood. Like I was. That's another thing for me that really pissed me off with The Meg. Like I read the first book, and like I really when it came out in '99, there was a big thing attached to it saying soon to be a major picture. Of just 10 years, 20 years later.
Yeah.
But it was like I thought, this would make a great film, like a great sort of B-movie horror shark film, because you're never gonna be Jaws ever again. So it tries to be, should just at least Sharknado wears it on its sleeve what it is. Yeah. Like The Meg should have been that, but gory as well. It's a shark film, for God's sake.
Yeah, you want 18 certificate gruesome. I mean, when you look at it though, the only films that really maintain, like an 18 certificate are those gore for the sake of gore horror movies. The psychological ones don't really.
No, I mean, even I think the last 18, I think I went to see. I'm sure we haven't seen any recently, have we?
The last one I remember was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, probably.
That was 18.
That would be the last one. Yeah, I mean, but before that, it may have been The Neon Demon, which was 2016.
I actually can't remember, other than like I said, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I can't. Remember
I
the
remember
last
going
one?
to Dread. That was an 18, wasn't it?
I think so. Let's have a
I
look.
remember going to see that and thinking like, I thought that was going to be like the 18 Renaissance. Like, oh, this film's great. Like everyone's liked it. It's gory like it should be, and then it just sort of faded away, didn't it?
Yeah, I look at watch the Watchmen movie, that the cinematic one. That was
Yeah.
18, and that was good. But you know, when everyone goes, they go for a hard R, which is usually a 15 certificate in the UK,
Yeah.
and you're thinking, you know, it's things like the Watchmen, which is, and even I mean, the first Blade, because I've got your handy, that's an 18. Then you go
Yeah,
to
the second one was a 15. Wasn't it?
yeah, and Trinity, Blade Trinity was a
Oh.
it was a 15. I don't think we talk about that. do
Oh no,
we?
was this Blade 2 was an 18, wasn't it?
I'm not sure. I can't. We haven't been able to get hold of that one yet. But I'm just looking on the.
I'm sure the first, but it's like what else was an 18 recently as well? I can't remember. It was when you said Watchmen. It just reminded me, but I forgot now. It might come back to me.
I mean, they go on about the Deadpool movies, but they were 15s. Logan was a
Yeah.
15, so it's to get more people into the cinema. I mean, Watchmen was obviously going to be have a smaller audience, so they can get away with it. But it's, you know, studios don't want to take risks. They don't want to get, you know, because the amount of money they make from cinemas, especially with piracy, and people would say, I'm not going to the cinema to see, I'm going to, you know, this is prior to what's going through now with the whole COVID thing. People would say, well, I can just wait till it comes out on streaming, and, you know, and, you know, so to get people into the cinema, you've got to have the bigger audience. You can get, I mean, it's like the 12A, you know, and 12 certificate,
Yeah.
which came in 30 years ago. I mean, if you look at Blu-rays and DVDs, you're looking at a lot of, you know, the 12 certificate seems to be the easy option. It does to get the bigger audience in, which is it's such a shame because, you know, creatively you're losing out.
Yeah, I think that's the main driving force behind this episode. That's what it's going to be, isn't it? It's going to be money related. Why it's declined, because you can get more people in the seats for the 12s and the 15s. You know, you rarely even see U's or PGs anymore because the 12A's sort of become those two as well combined, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Because if you can't see it, if you can see it with an adult, you don't even have to be 12 anymore.
No.
I mean, I don't know why it's called a 12A anymore. It's just a weird certificate, I think.
I think it's 12A.
It's more like a PG plus, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's 12A at the cinema and 12 on home entertainment.
Yeah.
But I mean, you look at Indiana Jones, Temple of
Yeah.
Doom, and Jaws, which was PG, and then they get moved up to 12s and 15s. So, I mean, Jaws is 12. It is now, so
Yeah.
that they can get them through without cuts.
I mean, didn't Temple of Doom sort of not invent, but sort of brought about, didn't it, in the UK?
I think there was PG before that, but it's the one.
Oh, there was. Oh,
yeah,
right.
to my knowledge. But Temple of Doom was the one that they had to cut because of the whole mull around with the heart thing.
Yeah, wasn't it PG-13 it invented in America?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in America, yeah. But
And then was it? I don't know. Was Gremlins the other one, or was that 15?
Gremlins was 15 in the UK. I know that.
Yeah, I thought it was.
But I mean, I'm looking at the even the Star Wars films. They've gone up. You know, it's kind of funny. It's like to try and get the audiences in. You know, films like the original Star Wars trilogy were all used. Then if you look over at the if you look at the box sets that came out on Blu-ray and stuff, you're looking at 12 certificates on them, on the packaging, and it's kind of to sell. It's kind of like Universal is a bad word, 18 certificate's a bad word, PJ we can tolerate slightly, but we just need to have people buying 12 certificates and 15s, but we'd rather have you having 12 certificates so that we can cater to the bigger audience that says it's not a kids film for the adults that think they're not going to watch it because it's U or a PG, because that's like a kiss of death. But You know, if it's a horror, we'll get it as a 15, or science fiction, we'll have it at 15 or a 12A, depending on the demographic we're looking for. But they seem to be floating around the 12A, the 12 and the 12A, which is annoying because you don't really have that much which you can actually really watch. And what it's doing is saying to the studios, saying, well, we need to tick all these boxes after the director's handed you its piece.
Yeah,
kind of shit.
It stifles creativity, which is the main bugbear with me. Like, if you wrote your film, how you wrote it, and it was going to be an 18, then so be it. Like, that's still what you wrote is what you wrote, and then the studio sort of steps in and says, well, you could make more money if you do this or change this. I actually don't blame directors that walk away or that say, well, I'm not going to do that. Sorry, that wasn't my vision. Like, it is purely studio based. Yeah. I mean, I think the one I remember the most was the RoboCop remake, where the guy that's directing it, a guy called Jose Padilla, he did a film years ago called Elite Squad, and it's about like a SWAT team in Rio de Janeiro. But it's very it's violent, but it's really good, like excellent film. When they signed him on, I thought, oh, at least it's going to be gory, because he does gory films. And then the next minute, he's putting out a press release that he probably didn't even write, saying like, it's not all about violence. We want this film to appeal to as many people as possible. And as soon as I saw the trailer, I just thought, no, you can't do RoboCop as a 12.
No.
We've done this many times before, haven't we? But it's just that's that mentality that applies to a lot of things, and the only time you ever do get an 18 is horror now, isn't it? Which is nothing different.
But it's a certain brand of horror. I mean, admittedly, like I said, I'm just looking around, and I'm looking at The Shining. I remember that was 18 when it was out, wasn't it, originally?
Yeah.
And that's gone down to a 15. Doctor Sleep was a 15, but then again, I'm not going to argue with that one because Doctor Sleep is, in my opinion, not a horror. If you haven't seen Doctor Sleep, watch Doctor Sleep. Underrated movie, I love it. But RoboCop 2 and 3, I mean, this is the 80s. RoboCop 2 and 3 did not know its audience because RoboCop was an adult film with children's themes as well, because it's RoboCop, yeah. But it's a film that works on two levels. It works if you're an adult, you see the satire. If you're a kid, you see it's a great superhero. Robo is. And
yeah,
they didn't know what they got, so but they figured we need to get people in. So RoboCop 2 was still gory. I think that was RoboCop 2 at 18 on release.
Yeah, it still is, I think.
Yeah, but RoboCop 3 was watered down.
Yeah, 100%. There is a supposed mythical cut where it was gory originally, but I don't know if it was even ever filmed or whether it's it'd be viewable now because Orion went bust. Orion going bust is what set that film back by 2 years. It was originally supposed to be released in 1991.
I was watching it religiously, waiting for it to be released, then found out that it would be on the shelves. I
remember renting that when I was a kid, and I rented 2 and 3 for the same night, and I remember just thinking, these don't seem like the same people made these. But and I was even a kid when I realised that. It's sort of that's another appeal about the 18, isn't it? Like that sort of clandestine, when you're a kid, sort of, we've got these films we can't watch at the cinema, but now they're on video. Like my dad can get them for me, or my mum can get them for me, or and it was never a big thing in our house about you can't watch this or that. My mum and dad were always kind of, we're here, so if there's anything that is a bit too much, then we'll just say don't watch this bit. But I was never stopped from watching things when I was a kid. I mean, my dad was always like, yeah, just go ahead. I don't really care.
I'm the same. The argument was if they'd rather watch it with me, watch it with them rather than them watching it, me watching it on my own and finding out. It's all about as well. I mean, this is the thing is it's your child's what level they're at and whether or not it's going to be all right for them. I mean, we're both major cinema fanatics, so we view cinema and films in a different way to most of us, and it grows from an early age. And the love and it's a whole. If you open the minds, if you know how your child is, to these elements that it builds up. You see a broader view of the world and of entertainment rather than just saying watch this or watch that. Because I remember I watched Disney a lot when I was a child because it was forced upon you because you really wasn't anything else. So the older I got, I just went off Disney for years. I didn't rediscover Disney until I was 20. But by not forcing things on it, it's like you said, it's about diversity in what you can view rather than saying you can't watch this because of this. I mean, there are stuff that's true. I mean, nowadays, but then again, today, if you look at it, with streaming and everything readily available, and the internet, you can get a hold of so much stuff so much easier. It's not like being able to reach a top shelf to grab a magazine when you're tall enough. It's just type it all onto the internet, and it's everything is being diluted. And I suppose you could also argue that dilution has got something to do with why they don't do so many 18 certificates anymore, because the studios are worried that someone will see it and there'll be a big thing that a kid will emulate what they see, and they'll blame the movie, so the studio has to take a lot of flack being sued and all the controversy around it. So it's a safety net for them as well by having films that are controlled, so that there's nothing, so that
safe.
Someone can actually say, well, I'm blaming this film because of this.
Yeah. I mean, you saw a lot of that in the sort of the video nasties area, didn't you? It's where horrors weren't the only films that were 18s, but we can't find anything for a moral panic, so let's pick on that. Yes. It just reoccurs every sort of 10 or so years, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's like you look at Child's Play 3, if I'm right, it was a 15 certificate, and that was linked. I don't really want to go into to the whole thing, but that was linked to a case that the children,
James Bulger,
it was, and the link was they may have witnessed it because of similarities to what happens in Child's Play 3, and they linked it because they might have seen the film, and that caused a lot of problem. It's so backward
thinking, though, isn't it?
They might have. That was the key word.
Yeah.
They may have watched this film and got the inspiration from there, and that's where the studio starts saying, "Wow, we better start watching content and everything."
Yeah, I mean, there was a similar. It didn't involve a murder, but I don't know if you remember. There's a weird subgenre of slashers set at Christmas, and there was one called Silent Night, Deadly Night, and I think it was 1984 at least, and there was like a massive sort of backlash not here, but in America, because a lot of them are quite religious still, so like taking a holiday like Christmas and making Santa a killer was like unacceptable over there, and this like Columbia TriStar pulled the film like completely, and it's just, you just think like, what? I don't like moral panics. I honestly don't understand them with things like films. I do in a way because they reach such a large number of people, but it's where they pick on a particular media form that's quite popular at the time and say, oh well, it must be that's society's problems right there.
But you have to blame something rather than blame yourselves. Yeah, you have to have a focus of blame. If you can have a focus of blame on something, it takes it away from these are the problems for creating it. If you blame media.
Art imitates life, doesn't it? Not the other way around.
Yeah, totally.
I think that's. Stan Lee put it amazingly once when he was talking about. There was a guy called Frederick Wortham in the 50s who argued that comics were like polluting kids' minds, and that's why they made the Comics Code Authority. Yeah. And Stan Lee was saying, well, that's like saying, like, if comics corrupt children, that's like saying kids that drink milk are going to be serial killers. He's like, all kids drink milk, but they're not, they're not murderers. He says it, and it's so true. Like, they just, like, how can doing something like, I mean, there's the odd people that cannot separate fantasy from reality that do end up being sociopathic, but like, I would say 99% of people that consume and watch a particular type of media know that, oh, this is fake, I'm not going to go out and murder someone.
But it's that small percentage that the studios are worried about. You mean, you hear it's like we're going slightly off subject, but the outcry that you get when a bunch of fanboys whose whole basement dwelling lies revolves around a film or a TV series that doesn't end how they want it to.
Yeah.
And there's a big kick of a stink, so they decide to retcon things just so that it keeps these morons happy.
Yeah.
And
I really don't understand. Yeah, like that's got to be a small minority of them that say that, and yet they change everything just to please. Like that sort of says, screw you to the rest of the fans, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Who did like it?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah. I mean, that's what I think the studios are a bit like now with the 18 thing. Like, they just don't think it's not safe enough. It's not economic enough to make intellectual films that might be 18s anymore. Years ago they would have just said 18, yeah, fine, yeah, that's what it's cut for. Like, that's what the BBFC have classified it. But I think now there's such a push to not put anything in at all that's remotely construed as, extremely violent or horrific or sexual or anything like that. Like, and everything just seems sterile now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know. I noticed that TV is getting a bit more gruesome when they're pushing the limits with TV, but then again, that's to get the later audiences in. But when it comes to movies, it's crazy. I mean, I tell you what,
crazy.
I was thinking, when we were doing the research and stuff, and I was thinking about growing up in the 80s and going to video shops, and we used to have all those drawn posters on the walls rather than the Photoshop crap that we have today. And you look at it and it would be like, especially the horrors always, and science fiction, they all had the better drawn posters. And you'd go in and it'd be like, you'd see them and it's like a toy shop. It was, but a cool ass toy shop with films, and you just want to see these films. And then you see these really cool posters. It's like 18 certificate or 15 certificate, and it's like, they are so cool. This is awesome. I really want to see these films. And we're not just talking about your horror and your science fiction. We're talking the likes of Porky's and Bachelor Party, and it was all so cool. I tell you, I'd love to go back and have literally all those posters. I'd love to have them, and just
I mean, in some ways, the posters were better than the films, weren't they?
Yeah.
Like, the promises that they made. Like, there's so many horror films from the 80s where you see the poster and you think, wow, that looks cool. And then when you watch the film, you think, none of that happened. But it sold me on watching it.
Yeah, and later we were going on about the whole Badge of Honor thing. Or I remember going to the cinema in the 80s and seeing the Nightmare poster, the original one. Because I remember in the small cinema, they had posters, like they had the main ones. Then you had the coming soons that were near the toilets. And I remember seeing a Nightmare one, and it was just, because it was the blue landscape one with the house and everything. And I just remember looking and thinking, that looks so cool. And that was an 18, and I was just like thinking, that is, and it was a selling point, the posters and everything, but and now especially with digital, where they do the crappy Photoshop shite, especially on when it's either digital or streaming, where sometimes it's just a snapshot from the film on like Netflix. It's not the same, and it's rubbish.
There's I think that the last sort of hand-drawn poster I remember, and it was obviously because of the content, the film was Ready Player One.
Yeah, that was good.
I think that was hand-drawn, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It looked kind of like the Drew Struzan kind of Spielberg, Lucas kind of projects that he always used to do, where he's the unbeatable at doing, faces. I couldn't believe that Harrison Ford just looks photorealistic whenever he paints them on the indie posters.
Oh, they're brilliant.
And you do miss that. You really do.
Yeah, and it's. I mean, the thing I mean, our last decent poster. I mean, one of the ones that stood out the most for me in recent years was the Bad Times at El Royale poster. Because I looked at it, that is so cool. And then we went to a cinema and they had loads of posters they were just giving away. One side was Bohemian Rhapsody, the other side was Bad Times at El Royale. So I was like, yes! So I've got eventually to put up a Bad Times at El Royale poster. And like I said, it's the artwork, and the artwork, especially on the 18 certificates and on the video cases, it's just seeing the video cases going to the counter.
Yeah, and thinking, I hope they don't realise. They didn't really care in those days, did they?
Oh,
Like, I mean, I remember my dad used to rent films for me, but I'd go up to the counter with him, like,
yeah,
and they clearly knew that it wasn't for the dad. Like, it was sometimes we used to watch stuff together, but they clearly knew he was getting it for me.
yeah.
But no one really cared because I think it was kind of like it's a minor sort of. It's not like buying alcohol for someone, is it?
No, but it is today. It's all bad. But back in the
Yeah,
day, I mean, alcohol's always been bad. You never bought alcohol for minors. But for films, it's even in the cinemas. I mean, they'd let if you pushed your luck. Because I was 14 years old when I went to see my first 18. If you pushed your luck back in the day, you could get in. And but
what was it
nowadays,
out of
pardon?
interest? What was it out of interest?
Nightmare on Elm Street 4.
Oh right.
First one I saw at this big screen as a certificate. I was 14. I definitely didn't look 14 at the time. And the second one was Pet Sematary. And
Oh, was that 89?
can't remember. And I also remember going to see Nightbreed, and I don't think I was old enough for Nightbreed when that came out. But
No,
those, and RoboCop 2. I don't think I was old enough for RoboCop 2 either. But the thing is, I wanted to see them, and I had the mindset that and the only one I ever got turned away from was Pet Sematary. I went back 2 days later. I had the mindset, I am going to see this film. But nowadays, you get ID'd, which I understand because there could be a setup for the people that go around. So I do understand where the cinemas are coming from nowadays, why they do ID and they have to check everything. But back in the days, there was, it was they're bringing money into the cinemas and everything. And
yeah.
which
is an attitude I'm really sort of shocked they don't have. Like I think it's because they have most of their titles are 12s now, aren't they? Like so they're already making the money from the superhero films and the Pixar films, the Disney films, all that sort of stuff. That's dominates the box office anyway, doesn't it? So not really. They probably can afford to be more sort of. Well, are you 18? Or I don't think so, son.
The thing is, the thing that really pisses me off, pardon my language, listeners, but if it's an 18 certificate and you're going to have a different audience, not the arseholes are going to talk throughout the films. And you always find out with the you can see a film with an adult theme and they've just walked in by mistake and all you hear is talking throughout the whole film.
Yeah,
and especially for the more adult
screens.
Yeah, it really annoys me. Whereas if you go see an 18 certificate, they usually have we're just going to be quiet through the whole film.
Yeah, the one that always sticks out for me is when we went to 28 Weeks Later, and we were the only two in there, and I went to the toilet, and you pulled that really nasty prank of scaring me when I came back.
Oh, that was a bloody good film.
Just that opening, I thought, wow, this is what I love about 18 films. Like you can sort of have that visceral, violent shit going on, and there is only us two in there, and it was fantastic. Like it's not even a great film, but it's just that experience has always made it great for me watching it again.
I really, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, after lockdown's over completely, I really want to go to London and do the tours.
Oh, definitely.
It's just brilliant, and I recommend this to any of our listeners. Take a look at your film collection, if it's both digital and and physical, and see how many of them you actually have that what you define as adult films are actually watered down. It's crazy. It is. I mean, like I said, everyone's circling the 12 and the 12A because that's the cool money making one.
Yeah.
But it really, I mean, I'm just glancing off the top because, like I said, the horror one is the genre that is I'm looking at my thrillers, and I've got 2 box sets. The Alfred Hitchcock ones, the white one is the 15 certificate, while the one with the later ones, the later Hitchcock ones, is an 18. And the thing is, Hitchcock. I mean, to be honest with you, I really didn't see much difference in terms of content because they're all great movies. But it's nice to know that there are some Hitchcock films that, if they were to be released today, they would still only get the smaller 18 certificate audience, because you really don't want to hit people gas-bagging through these films.
No, it's just, oh yeah, I know, that's a separate podcast in itself, isn't it? Like how annoying people are in cinemas.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I know what you mean. Like, if you ever get the chance to see like a film being re-released in the cinema, like that you like from it, just go. Like it's such a great experience. Like seeing, because most of them are going to be for us 18 films, aren't they? Like, I mean, Lost Boys was a 15, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street was released in our cinema, wasn't it? Evil Dead.
And I missed that one.
Yeah, no, but they were all like, it was all great atmosphere, and like seeing like an old, I mean, like, something like Halloween, like the original, like you watch that now and you think, in your mind, that's not programmed as an 18, it's a 15 at most, but it still is an 18. I mean, maybe it's context again, isn't it? Like, what you find disturbing, someone else might not, or...
I mean, I don't do horror as a rule, but when Halloween Kills comes out, I'm hoping it gets an 18, and I am going to be seeing it, because they did such a fantastic job. That's the reason after over 20 plus years I actually started rewatching horrors, is because Halloween, who's the director again? Because I call him Danny McBride.
David Gordon Green.
Yeah. And that's...
Yeah. 2019, was it? Yeah, it was 2019, wasn't it? Sorry.
That was a... But, you know, yeah. That was... And that's what you need. You need that. Just... Yeah.
That's what... That was... I remember when we went to see that with my fiancé, and that was quite full. And I thought, this is great. Like, because I think it'd be good to start seeing these franchises come back and be 18s and not be sort of watered down 15s, with annoying characters you don't give a shit about, you know. And it was nice to see, like, you cared about the right people, like, the jokes were on cue, like, the gore was, it wasn't massively gory, but it was more violent than the original, and it was good to see, like, a classic style slasher again, being 18.
I liked it had the suspense. I was on the edge of my seat, and I loved.
Yeah.
And I loved the way it wasn't gore ridden. It was literally and the fact that you got Jamie Lee Curtis and her daughter, her character's daughter, Laurie's daughter, and how you're terrified for them, and you are rooting for the heroine, not the psychopath.
Yeah.
You know, and to me that was brilliant. It was superb.
I forgot about that was an 18.
Pardon?
I'm saying the last film before Once Upon a Time was 2016. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, it deserved the 18, and it was good. And Alien, that's an 18, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it still is.
Watching that.
I know Aliens definitely is.
Pardon?
Aliens definitely is as well.
Watching those, because I saw Aliens at the Space Center and I saw Alien at the View, and watching those with the right audience.
Yeah, I saw Alien as part of a midnight showing with Covenant. We saw Prometheus, Alien, and then Alien Covenant.
Oh, nice.
That was a good, like, sort of, you know, endurance test as well, because people were sort of, there was like 20 people at the end of it, so but it was great, like, seeing. And then there was I think there's a marathon I went to Leicester, like a Halloween marathon, as in like a Halloween the holiday, and they had like The Thing, What We Do in the Shadows. That's where I first saw it.
Oh, lucky.
And like the original Christopher Lee Dracula, it was great, like, just watching, you know, all the way into the night, into the morning, sort of these really high-rated horror films, and it's just it's such a great experience to watch an 18 film, I think, in cinema.
You're gonna have to keep an eye out, and if they do it again, I'm up for that. I am so up for that.
I mean, even the listeners, like, if you ever see something classic that you've never seen in the cinema, just do it, because you may, like, it might not ever pop up again.
Can I just go on to what you just said? I was planning on going to see Alien at the View, and then
Yeah.
near at the time when they didn't. This is before we knew it was coming out, but they didn't know the ticket prices. So I went and googled how much it was to get the actual box set of all the movies included, and it came to £15. You pay £15, you get the 4 Aliens, the ones with director's cuts as well. So you're talking 8 films there plus Prometheus and Covenant. So going by it, then it came closer and closer to when Alien was going to be screened, and we were like, you know what, we've got to go and see it.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Was that the 40th anniversary?
it
show?
was, yeah. I mean, bear in mind, I mean, I have all the films I've seen on reissue, and I've seen quite a few over the last 20, 30 years, but seeing Alien is like up there with Schindler's List in terms of being just a film that I can say I'm glad I can tick that off and saying I've seen those two on the big screen, because it's meant to be, and it's the terror and everything that comes with it. It's just you can't replicate it at home, no matter how big your screen is.
It's, I mean, probably the best sort of experience for like that sort of film was when we watched Jaws recently on the projector.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Like that's, I mean, it's weird because Jaws is kind of like, feels like a family film, doesn't it? Like it was marketed as it was a blockbuster, wasn't it? So everyone would see it, but it is still, it's the same level of terror as Alien, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Alien is just Jaws on a ship, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like it was one of those sort of Jaws on a films, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think.
Well, Alien also has a little. I know we haven't said it yet. Alien also has a big shout out to another franchise far, far away from the used universe.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
That's my one for this podcast.
And apparently, there's like a lot of theories, or I don't know if they've ever said it was, or they've hinted at it, that Alien is set in the same universe as Blade Runner. I don't know if you've ever heard that.
I haven't heard it, but that would be pretty cool.
Like with the androids being, like a sort of later version of the replicants, or an earlier version. It's just I think it's just like, when fans sort of get together and go, oh, that'd be cool if this happened.
Yeah.
But there's, I mean, Blade Runner, it's not an 18, but
15.
There's another example of like a really good film not doing well at the cinema because it was too intellectual, or maybe the certificate was too high as well, because kids were probably thinking, oh, Harrison Ford's in it, it's going to be like Star Wars or Indiana Jones, and they sort of mismarketed it, didn't they?
Yeah, I'm going to admit that I saw Blade Runner when I was a kid, didn't like it.
No, I didn't either.
Because I didn't understand it. And the next time I watched it, must have been about 11, I watched it, rewound the tape, and watched it again. So I watched it literally, and ever since then, I've loved Blade Runner.
Yeah, I think it's one of those films that if you really liked it the first time around, you maybe haven't understood it. Not in a sort of disparaging way, but like I think it takes multiple. I think everyone has to not like it at first when they're young, because it is complicated. And then once you're older and you understand those sort of things, and you go back to it and you realise, wow, this is majestic. Like that's the sort of thing. Like it's not like watching, like we always bring up, but RoboCop. Like you say, when you watch. I would argue most people that watch that probably were kids, because they were like, wow, like robot cop that kills bad guys. That's cool. And we all had the toys, like we would rightly say, like this confusing thing where this massively violent film was like marketed for kids, like the Freddy thing.
Yeah.
Like kids had Freddy lunchboxes and they can't even see the film legally. It's so weird.
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's also one of the reasons why I went off horror, because it was aimed at children towards the end. I mean, you look at Friday 8 and Nightmare 4. That's the MTV ones.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's sort of like, and then you realise that they're marketing a slasher at children.
Yeah, and it's quite
wrong.
Not they're sort of harmless now, aren't they? When you compare them to what's, like something like Saw, but I mean, there's just a bit insidious, isn't it? When you think like they were marketing these, there was nudity in them as well, like.
Yeah.
But obviously, like when you're a, 8 to 14-year-old boy, that's all you want to see, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you want to see the blood and the tits.
Yeah.
Pardon my language, but like that's, and I think the studios knew that, didn't they? Like, could you take your top off, please? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that is so true. But it gets the teenagers in because like you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like you said about Porky's and Bachelor Party, I think the tone of those, they don't seem like particularly restricted 18 films. I mean, maybe only like it's just the nudity that you're watching those for when you're younger, isn't it? Like, but because it's a comedy, I think it sort of diffuses some of the nastiness. Maybe like your parents would probably be like, no, okay, it's just a comedy, so we'll let you off, sort of thing. So I mean, I think that was one of the first sort of nude scenes I'd ever seen, like apart from Trading Places. I mean, there's an example there. Like that's a comedy, and I was sort of let away with it a bit more because it was a comedy.
And you said before, it's the first time you really get to see a set of hoo-hoos.
It was the first.
Jamie Lee Curtis, courtesy of.
Yeah.
She's a gateway actress to boobs and to horror.
There was an interview with her actually. I can't remember where it was when they were saying. Quite a lot of people have said that Trading Places was their first, because if you're in that sort of age bracket of like maybe mid to late 30s or early 30s, that's where you would have seen like that for the first time. And she was just like, I never really thought about it like that. It was just not a paycheck, but it was just, I was just acting like that's just. But she said, "Oh, I'm flattered if it is."
So does that make Jamie Lee Curtis to a generation one of the ultimate actresses?
Yeah, I've always loved her anyway. I mean, she's fantastic in anything, isn't she? But I mean, she's getting her hoo-haws out as well.
I just want to do a little plug for a film, because you said Jamie Lee Curtis, and I'm entitled to plug films that I really like that I want people to watch. Knives Out.
Yeah, she's fantastic in that. Everyone's good in that though, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, I'm off track for a few seconds. Yeah, everyone goes on about the ensemble cast in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I mean, which I loved Quentin Tarantino, as everybody knows. But for me, Knives Out has the best ensemble cast.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, going back to our subject, Tarantino. I mean, there must be some sort of precedent for him making the 18 more popular. Because I mean, I think there's only a couple of his films that are 50. Isn't it only Jackie Brown?
Oh, Jackie Brown's an 18.
Oh, was it? Oh, I thought it was 15. But I mean, the majority of his films, all of them, then.
All of the ones he's directed are 18s.
I'm
just doing the research right now. Yeah, they're all 18s.
I mean, if he sort of drives people to watch his films because of, it's a Tarantino film, isn't it? Everyone wants to see it. It's an event. Like Scorsese as well. I mean, they've all made careers off of restricted, classified films, and they've all made millions. I think those films haven't they? I mean, that's probably the instance where the 18 does make a lot of money when it's associated with a particular event director.
I'll be honest with you. Probably Quentin Tarantino is not a problem, but this is just fact from where I'm standing. Quentin Tarantino did a Universal film or PG or whatever certificate it is. I'm going to go and watch it just because he directed it. I don't care about certificate. I go see a Tarantino film because it's Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
I just noticed, and this is going slightly off subject, The Big Lebowski is an 18 certificate.
Yeah, I thought that was a 15.
So did I just realised it's an 18. But then again, there is a lot of F words in it. But other than that, there's nothing really in it that's...
Yeah, it's probably just the cumulative swear words, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think when you go over like 100 odd F-bombs, then it's automatically 18, isn't it?
And you're Trainspotting and Trainspotting 2, they're also 18. I can understand Trainspotting because of the depiction of the use of drugs.
Yeah, and it's got Scott.
It's got who?
It's got Scottish people in it, so there is going to be a lot of swearing.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, but Robert Carlyle is absolutely superb in that film.
Yeah.
Yes.
terrifies me.
And what is it?
Trainspotting is one of the most highest grossing 18 films in the UK.
That does not surprise me. I know I do prefer Trainspotting too. I just realised Beerfest. Oh yeah, I understand that. It's alright, I get it now. Beerfest is an 18 certificate because of probably depiction of use of alcohol.
I mean, I think during my research, I found that the most successful 18 film still to this day for inflation is Fatal Attraction.
Jeez.
It's quite surprising. Like, you think it'd be something. I thought it would have been RoboCop, to be honest, but I mean, it must have been. I think because it was a thriller and it was sort of like done by Adrian Lyne, who's considered like a respectable director. It's like Silence of the Lambs, isn't it? Like they almost sort of poo-poo the fact that it's a horror film and say, "Oh, it's a thriller." No, it's not. It's about a cross-dressing serial killer who wears skin and a cannibal. That's a horror film.
Yeah. But then again, it's marketing.
Yeah, and I think because it won the Oscars, they were sort of like, "Oh, we can't call it horror film. It's respectable."
Yeah. No. It is again. It goes back to money and prestige, and rather than art, which sucks. But,
I think that's essentially what it boils down to. It's money, isn't it?
yeah.
They don't consider the art anymore. It's just it's the ticket sales and the large popcorn and drink combos that they make.
Exactly.
Does my head in.
And when it comes to the films that they make for your streaming channels like your Netflix and everything, it's all about what can we put out there that we can make safe enough that people will want to watch and be safe for just if the kids are around. Because for some reason with movies we make them younger, with TV shows we just raise the age range.
Yeah, you said that earlier, didn't you?
Yeah.
Actually, and I didn't think about that till you said it. That TV has gotten more adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, and TV is like the dominant sort of form, isn't it, at the moment for telling stories? And I mean, especially with shows like Game of Thrones and The Walking Dead, and even something a bit older like The Sopranos and things like that. Like that was where TV sort of grew up, and where you saw some quite gruesome stuff on TV, especially like something like Game of Thrones. I mean, Game of Thrones is very violent.
I'm going to start watching it soon after I finished watching American Gods. That's on after we've got to get American Gods out of the way first. 3 episodes in, and I mean that deserves its 18 certificate. It's gruesome.
Yeah, I mean, but I think it's just strange that sort of TV gets the unlimited budget now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
To be, especially if you're with HBO. I mean, you're guaranteed a hit if you have a show made by them, aren't you? Really.
Yeah.
But I mean, or AMC. But it's just, it's strange. I think it's sort of flipped on its head a little bit. TV, oh god, it was so censored and so safe, wasn't it, years ago? I mean, even I was saying to you, wasn't it, about Star Trek Picard?
Yeah.
How they say like the F word and they swear and that, and I like that now, like because you probably there's loads of fans moaning saying like, oh, that's not Star Trek if they're swearing, and I argue, well, it is, because it's a new frontier, so there's your pun, and also they would have sworn. It's just that they were on primetime TV and you weren't allowed to back then.
Exactly, and another little plug. Picard is absolutely. I gotta admit that is.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, and I like that. I gotta admit, and this is one of the reasons I really like that they didn't do a season dump. They just week by week, so you could. And that's what I liked. I gotta give them that. And I'm not a Trekkie, but I've started watching Star Trek again since.
Yeah.
I watched movies. I love The Next Generation, but I've got a soft spot for the original movies. So,
oh yeah, I like movies. Yeah.
And but the heart of what with Star Trek, regardless of certificate and of content, these Star Trek is Star Trek, and what makes Star Trek good, is continued through, and they keep the heart always the same. They keep in mind. So
it wouldn't bother me if they made an 18 rated Star Trek film, as long as it was still you watched it and went, "Whoa, this is good Star Trek." Like I feel like the certificate sort of interferes in the content, like the content of the film now. Like it sort of says to a lot of people what type of film it's going to be, and I think, you know, back like when you were saying when you went to cinema as a kid, or like when you were sneaking in, you know, it's like it didn't define the film. Like it was, you go to see it because you wanted to see it. It just happened that you weren't 18, so you had to sneak in.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to say sneaking is I paid to get in.
I don't mean sneak in. Yeah.
They let me in.
Yeah, it's their fault.
Yeah, their fault that I'm corrupted. And
my mum actually snuck in to see The Exorcist when she was 14.
Whoa.
And she didn't pay, so that's not fair.
No, I actually went in and let them know, because, you know, I mean, here's the thing, which I knew at the time I could easily have done, but I'm too honest for my own good. I could have just said I could have said one for whatever the PG film, whatever other film they were showing, and instead of going into screen 1 or screen 2, go to the opposite screen and watch the movie. They wouldn't have known the difference, because they see that you get your ticket, you go in, go toilet first, and accidentally go into the wrong screen. That's what I think I must. Bear in mind, this is over 30 years ago, so I must have had that idea at the time to actually still remember the idea now. So
yeah, I don't know if you get away with that now, because they rip the ticket now, don't they?
They do, and once you go in, and all it would take is someone. Can you imagine now? You go to these multiplexes, and they actually have, especially some of the bigger ones where they got the doors, and you just go, no, sorry, you're in the wrong screen. Plus, ones that got seat numbers, you could accidentally pick a seat number that's in the wrong thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm supposed to sit there. Oh, you're in the wrong screen. You're supposed to be seeing Spider-Man or whatever it is, not gruesome horror film, which you're too young for. I don't want to hear you talking for this fucking film. Get out.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd have to pick a cinema that doesn't have seat allocation as well, wouldn't you? Because some annoying twat would probably still be like, "You must seat."
Yeah. And you'd have to be able to get there, so you'd have to be using public transport or something like that. It's so much of a rigmarole rather than just turning up and saying, one for Pet Cemetery or one for Nightmare or one for, it's like, I am going to see this film.
Yeah.
I'm going to see this film and I'm going to enjoy this film.
I can't remember what the first one I went to see was, but I remember like being like texting my friend and saying, 15 now, I can go see the 15th film. Like, it was a big thing to be able to go and see, because I remember when I was a kid, like when we had years ago, when the cinema was up by the library.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh yes.
I went to see Power Rangers in '95, and I think that was the year it closed, if I'm not mistaken, is it?
Closed and reopened a few times. Yeah, 95 I saw Clueless there, yeah, so it would be 95 or 96.
Yeah. Well, I remember seeing posters for Judge Dredd, and I'm thinking, like, I love the comics, like, can we go see it, Dad? And he was like, can't really, it's a 15, like, you're only at 8, or whatever it was today, and I was like, oh.
Thank you for making me feel old. I saw that at the Cannon in Leicester, so the cinema was definitely shut then, before that came out. I'll have to show you.
We didn't miss much anyway, did it? It turns out.
No. But I had to literally get on a train just to get on a train to get to Leicester, to walk to the cinema, to see the film, to go back to the train to get back home.
Yeah, we used to go through some like journeys, didn't we, to go see films then?
Yeah. So is it any wonder that I would actually go and see 80s when I was underage?
Not at all.
But ironically, I was ID'd once for a 15 certificate when I had my student ID on me. And they had to apologise. That was funny. At 20, I think I was 20 at the
What was that for?
Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Odeon, Leicester went through.
I remember that coming out in my video shop. There was a big cardboard cutout of Freddy, and I remember seeing it and thinking, "Oh, that looks scary." Like, like you say, like the whole drive to advertise films was different then. It's all trailer online now, and that probably gets streaming, and it's just it doesn't feel the same. Like, I think we were in a great era for films.
I mean, we've got to look at that really, 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 really good film that everyone should watch, but went straight to streaming. Annihilation.
Oh yeah.
God,
yeah.
I was so looking forward to
Still
that.
sore about that.
That is honestly that's a very poor subject for me, because I was looking forward to having the whole Alex Garland cinema experience that I had with Ex Machina. Then when it went straight on to streaming, I was so raging. I was absolutely livid, because I really wanted to have that experience. But, you know, I'm just looking up and I can see, I'm just, you know, I really want to watch, after this podcast, I really want to watch 28 Days and do a podcast on 28 Days now. You brought that into my mind again, so it's a good film. Really British. But
yeah, it's a great film, yeah. Very good. I wanted to see that when it first came out as well, but I was nowhere near old enough.
I didn't get around to see it. I didn't see it at the cinema, because it was in my I don't do horror period, but then I saw it on DVD, then it's sort of like... and I got to admit, I'm so glad I've got the Blu-rays, because they're fantastic films. And I got such a buzz in 2007. I was on the way to the Excel Centre, and using the railway line, and I cut across the centre part, and I was thinking out loud, and I said, I was like, that's wow. It's where they filmed 28 weeks, and someone heard me and said, yeah, that is actually where they filmed 20 weeks. And I was like, yes.
It's good. It's Did you say you didn't see 28 Days Later in cinema?
Didn't see 28 Days, no. But
if you ever do get the chance, though, it's really it's fantastic. I mean, I did it with the Secret Cinema thing.
Oh, lucky.
So they have it's all themed. You get chased by infected people, and then at the end of it's not of the experience. You go into this big sort of warehouse that's been converted into a hospital, and then there's screens everywhere, and you lay down on your hospital bed in your doctor scrubs and watch the film. But while the film's going on, they've got people running around pretending to be infected and stuff like that, and it was such a great... I mean, I really want them to do something. I was so gutted we couldn't have gone to the Blade Runner one.
Oh, that'd been good. We'll have to, when the world opens itself up, the next time they do one, we'll have to go and we'll podcast from there.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So, that'd be fantastic. I mean, as I said, we're going to do a bit of a gratuitous plug. Once the world opens up and we've got a load of ideas, so you may see us being videoed, but we're going to go
related mainly.
Yeah, and we're going to be... we've got some good stuff coming to the High Ground podcast, and... you know what? I've really enjoyed actually doing this podcast today.
Yeah, I think it's been one we've been talking about for a while, hasn't it? It's been a subject we've been wanting to approach for a while, because it is quite sort of dear to us, isn't it?
Yeah.
That this is... I'm sad that it's sort of... I wouldn't say 18s are dead, but they're definitely on the sort of decrease, aren't they? I mean, per year... the amount that you see is less and less.
Definitely. So, if you can recommend off the top of your head one 18 certificate movie for our listeners,
so many.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm probably just going to go with RoboCop.
I'm going, because we've just been talking about it, I'm going to go with 28 Days.
Yeah, good man. Oh, I don't know, The Thing, actually.
So, if you want to go and listen to something, we recommend The Thing.
Yeah.
And 28 Days Later.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Stevie W.
I'm Callum.
And we'll see you soon.
We will indeed.